Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for a weekly show. We know it's not been so weekly lately, but we're going to up the speed, although we do have the Vuelta coming up shortly. Anyway, we do our best. We're going to get through a lot of things at the moment. We've got transfer announcements now because 1 August has passed, even though that's not actually a rule anymore, but teams still abide by it. Maybe one day it'll be broken and then the floodgates will open. We have a Tour de France Femmes retrospective, La Vuelta Bulletin, and a lot of race previews. We've got a lot of nice 1 week races starting that I quite like. So quite a bit to get to, but the Tour de France Femmes has finished. The dust has settled. The viewing figures are out. But I think before we get to those, did you enjoy the current race format, Benji?
Yes, I did. And I know that we've spoken about the race being a backloaded race since it started existing to begin with, because it's always kind of been a backloaded race. And that was in the days of Annemiek van Vleuten, that's in the days of Demi Vollering and what came afterwards. I don't necessarily mind that, but in the grand scheme of things, I think you're trying to give the layup assist. I don't know if that's a word or anything, because I don't know NBA at all, but I think you're trying to bring us to the question of, should the race have more stages in the future? Because we saw Lapartien, we saw Mario Rus, we saw Steven Delcourt from NDG talking about this question online quite a few times in the last week, especially after a really fun race. And I think it's a question with nuance, because I think everybody tends to agree with the fact that we don't need to add stages for the sake of adding stages. We need to add stages if it improves the race, right?
Exactly. So that's always the argument, is that we should equalize it with the men's, like equalize coverage, equalize length of race. I think that starts from a false premise in that the men's Grand Tours are too long. If you were designing an entertainment product and designing those races today, they're 2 weeks, or 15 days max. Now, maybe the Tour de France Femmes gets to 12 days. And I think it depends also on the commercials, as in the reason the men's Grand Tours are so long is because they want to maximize the number of starting and finish towns that can pay them, pay them money, pay them appearance fees or start fees.
Also tradition.
And that's how it always was. If you were designing the race from today, would you do that? But on the other hand, would Paris-Roubaix be allowed to be run if they started it today? Probably not. So I think it has to be justified, and if you've got a good thing, be wary of amending it, although they added an extra stage this year. So I think go to 10 days. Just keep adding one stage each year until it stops working.
The reason I think 10 days is an issue is because it's mandatory for a 10-day race to have a rest day.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have 10 days and need a rest day, then I'd rather go to 11 or something, so that it makes more sense that you could maybe have a rest day after 3 days and then have still 8 stages afterwards. Because you don't want to divide the race into like 5 and 5 stages, You want to have an element of endurance in the span of a week across a week without a single rest day present. So I wouldn't mind the race going to 11 race days, maybe 12 race days. I agree with you that I don't want the race to jump through 3 weeks. I also don't think that's logistically the right choice to begin with. And to be completely selfish for a second, I also don't think I, as a cycling fan, would have the bandwidth to have basically 7 weeks of Tour de France. Because yes, there's a week in between men's and women's now, but if there's 3 weeks of men's racing, a week of nothing in between, and then 3 weeks of women's racing, I would be on my deathbed after that, Patrick. Especially because the Vuelta then starts, so it's 9 weeks of Grand Tours, Patrick. I would die.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's too much, probably. And I think they got a good thing at the moment. What's missing, though? Like, let's substantially, like, what's missing in the route? I would say one uphill finish is just not enough. One uphill finish for the biggest 1 week race, stage race testing these women. One uphill finish is not enough. And they do that also not to kill the race, but I think we've also seen now that the uphill finishes don't kill the race. The level is quite close, or actually it's like what men's cycling used to be like. in that a different rider will take back more time on the uphill finish, and then on the other stages, the other riders, it's their terrain. So I think we really miss a 2K 10% finish. We never have that. I don't know why. And we miss maybe an Orcio Millet would be cool.
When I lean towards parkour changes, then I think it's possible to have a extra mountaintop finish without doing the same thing. And that doesn't necessarily need to mean that it's just the Unipuerto 2 kilometer 10% climb. It can also be just a mountain-like stage, but with a bigger breakaway formations phase. Because let's be honest about it, the Mont Ventoux stage, there's 2 quote-unquote bumps in the road. They're called the Col la Colombier, which that's confusing because there's the Grand Colombier, there's the Colombier, and also the Colombier. But this was the smaller climb of the 3. Like, that is not a proper breakaway formation climb necessarily, and we saw pretty much waiting until the final climb for the majority of people in that peloton. And maybe a lighter finishing climb and some action in the first half in the race is something that I'd like to see. I argue that there's also space for an actual proper flat stage, because even the stage that Wiebes won, stage 2, after winning stage 1 as well, but stage 2 was not a proper flat stage. Like, there was quite a bit of climbing in there, and that makes it that a rider like Charlotte Kool, who's actually been versatile for a lot of the year, then shows up to the Tour de France Femmes and basically OTL's Ventoux, but before that, cannot even enter the top 100 because she gets dropped on the hills in the middle of the stage. And I know you have a necessity of a base level at the Tour de France Femmes, but I need some completely flat stage, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people hate the flat sprints, but it can be a 60-kilometer stage for all I care.
Exactly. Or put it somewhere where there's maybe potential crosswinds. There's a lot of scope to add interesting stages. We could have the Champagne gravel stage. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think a classic, a different gravel stage, and also a cobble stage. I'd love to see the women doing another cobble stage. So there's stuff that's missing that can be added. On the coverage front, that also seems to be going pretty well. I mean, apparently the women's race had 51% viewership as the men's race. I don't know if that's aggregate or on a daily audience score basis.
I think that's on a daily audience score, because if you do aggregate, then you've got 21 stages versus 9. That's impossible to 51%, you know? I just know that there's this element of audience share. Now, I'll be honest, until a week ago, I didn't know what audience share means. It supposedly means that you have X amount of percentage of who is currently watching TV, watching your program. And for the Tour de France men's race, that was for the 35.9%, if I got my numbers straight. And then for the women's race, it was 32.9%, which I think that number is also quite valuable. I do attribute a bit more value to the...
This is in France, right? This is France domestic TV.
This is France domestic TV, and it's partially because a lot of the women's PDF, and I think men's as well these days, is not just free to air, but also paywalled behind like an HBO in the UK, for example, the women's race. So I think there's parts in that to the point that you can't really compare the international audience as much as you can the French ones to each other. But on the audience front, regardless of the viewing figures, first of all, do you think that there's necessity to increase the broadcast length of individual stages?
On a case-by-case basis, yes.
Okay.
So I will trade you the men half of quite a few of the men, some of the men's stages. Now they race them full gas all the time. It's hard to pick ones that don't need full coverage, but I'll trade you them if I can get Dauphiné Stage 8 full coverage. In fact, I'll give you this arm. If I can get Dauphiné Stage 8 full coverage. So this is not an issue confined to just the Tour de France Femmes. There is also...
Any final stage?
Yeah, that helps with the audience score, perhaps. Also, that there's when it's on, it's really on, and you're seeing like the best parts of the race. On the other hand, I think it's just got to be pick stages, and me and you could do it easily a year in advance. Okay, this stage full coverage, that stage you don't need full coverage. Like, let's be honest, you don't need on like a versatile sprint stage really. Like, it's not essential. But on some of the other stages, it is essential to have full coverage. So I would say it should be... And that applies for every race on the calendar, not just this race.
I agree. And I think in this race specifically, one element that I was maybe a little bit disappointed by is the QM classification basically being fought half before the broadcast began. And that's because some of the stages, which had more serious breakaway formation phases with multiple climbs in the first half, we didn't see that. And then we didn't see basically how Puck Pieterse got our lead in the first couple of days. So that's the one thing where I'm like, if you make QM so important from breakaways perspective, then I want to see that fight on my TV. And we saw 30% of that QM battle, if I'm being honest.
Luke will know this, but I again implore someone, why isn't there local recording? When I understand the expense to have the plane up for extra hours. I understand that.
Yeah.
Why aren't the motorbikes locally recording? Because like the motorbike's already in the race, the camera motorbike. They're not joining. Are they just joining from a deviation with 2 hours to go and they've been having a breakfast, a nice, full English breakfast at a pub with 2 hours left? Luke is saying they're not in the race. The camera motorbikes join later.
But they can be.
Because like the camera moto, you're not paying by that hour. These are people they're on the day rate. Like surely the marginal extra
maybe
cost.
The day rate would go up.
The marginal extra cost.
I agree.
Can't be that much higher. I understand the plane it is, but because I do local recording, and then if it's not broadcast,
it's in the same way.
Give it to France TV. If you give to France TV, right? Locally record Dauphiné Stage 8 pre-coverage, give it to France TV. It's not been broadcast. They can whack it on their YouTube channel, unedited, no extra work required. Bang. It's free money.
Yeah, but the thing I wanted to add there is that I think Gent-Wevelgem men's race was a perfect example of that over the years, because they had the Moeren segment before the broadcast started. And that's where they started using motorbikes for local recordings, if I recall, to be able to show what happened in the Moeren. They also then started broadcasting it over lunchtime in Belgium these days. And whenever they broadcast it, nothing happens. But whenever they don't broadcast it, the race explodes. That to the side, that's just the duality of cycling. I do think that I would like to see more broadcast length for the stages. Not necessarily a flat sprint stage. I want to see some more break formation, because in a lot of men's stages also, break formation is my favorite. I don't think women's cycling is at a point where break formation is as important as the men's race, because seemingly the race doesn't necessarily explode in break formation as much as I want it to. That's kind of the vibe I get watching the ticker the last week during the race. Now, outside of broadcast, outside of stage length, we've also saw a lot of discussions online about the prize money of this race, Patrick. And I think that's to sketch the situation, Patrick. Men's race prize money is 2.3 million for the men's race. Just on the men's race alone, since 2016, the men's race prize money has also actually not notably increased. I think it was 2.3 million then. It is still 2.3 million. So it's not seeing any progress there either, despite ASO as a business having an operational profit of 46 million going to 140 million over that same time. So companies making 3 times as much money. Side note, it's not just ASO from cycling race, it's also the cars part of that. I think there's 4 underlying structures that go into that.
They do Paris Marathon?
I think so. Next to that, the women's race has a prize money of roughly 260,000. And that is for a race that, let's be honest about it, the viewership figures that you mentioned earlier, which is the 51% of the men's race, or even if you look at the audience share, then it's 35% versus 32%. I saw a lot of people saying online to me, you can't compare it to the men's Tour de France, you have to compare it to Paris-Nice, because it's the shortest stage race. While I don't necessarily agree fully with that prerogative, let's do it. Paris-Nice, 8-day stage race, men's race, of course, 12.9% audience share, so 1/3 of Paris-Nice, 1/3 of the Tour de France Femmes. The Tour de France Femmes had a 2.6 million daily average viewership and 5.1 million on Mont Ventoux, while Paris-Nice's best day is 1.5 million. If we base, hypothetically, prize money on viewership figures, then the prize money of Paris-Nice being 150k and TDFF being 260k is still too low for the Tour de France Femmes. So my take on this whole subject is, I think it should be higher for the women's race. I also think it should be higher for the men's race. But the percentage of women versus men prize money is too low right now. But how much does the prize money actually matter?
So if the prize money was in some way distributed, there's women in this race, right, who are all basically racing like almost self-supported.
Yeah.
Almost like they're working another job, I think. I think that's correct. There's quite a few women in this race who
or borderline.
Yeah. Because there's teams in this race that, and then you have teams in big structures. They're either their own structure, like FDJ United Suez, who win the race, or SD Works, or then you have, the ones attached to teams like Visma or Little Trek. And then you have teams in the race like Mayenne, Monbana, My Pierre, Ma Petite Entreprise.
Pie, by the way. Like the actual food. Pie.
Okay. I'm not sure about that one. Luke says 18K minimum Neo Pro salary employed, and they are pro teams, okay, but the prize money ain't going to them. So the prize money is going to go to the riders who, by the way, this applies for men and women's, because I think the men, when you win a Tour de France stage, the men get, I don't know, like 10 grand prize money?
11 grand, women's race, 4 grand.
But your future salary when you win a Tour de France stage, it goes to 7, just automatically above 7 figures minimum. So I think it still works for the riders, actually. For the riders, because the salaries are going up year on year. You can look at the data. The women's salaries are exploding almost faster than the men's on a percentage basis. So we're looking, you saw the reports of what Blasi was looking for. And so I think the race, the Tour de France Femmes as an economic model for rider salaries has worked, in that if you now want to invest in a top female rider, you get that return because the audience figures Benji just mentioned. You're going to get a bigger return than paying a guy to win a Tuesday Paris-Nice rainy sprint stage where they're all in rain jackets and you can't see who won. Why don't you pay the same money for a rider who can win the Tour de France overall? And so I think the salaries of the top riders has exploded. And yeah, you can increase the prize money. Okay, sure, you can. But is that going to help the base riders in this race or even below that level in women's cycling? I don't really think so, unless they happen to win a stage themselves.
Is there a way to make the prize money sharing, the distribution of it, more? It's difficult because you want to give the biggest prize to the person who wins the whole race. I'm trying to think like intermediate sprints, etc. I think it's now 3K per intermediate sprint at the TDFF, but I'm not completely sure about that figure.
3K?
I think so.
And still people didn't try getting the break?
I didn't force them to stay in the peloton.
I think you're right. That could be a mechanism. Also, because if I had to criticize one of the racing dynamics, it really was the passiveness in the start of some of these stages where I'm like, come on, guys. Like, we all know Demi and whoever's going to kill everybody if we go to the final climb here. Like, let's move.
Like, my exact point to that is, imagine, Patrick, you are human-powered health. You got two riders that managed to finish in the top 20 of this race, which is Talita de Jong and Nina Buisman. Why do you choose on day one to... I think Cipressi of that team maybe went into the breakaway to fight for the QM points, but you want one of your best riders to go in there so you can actually take the QM jersey home for a day. So I believe that Talita de Jong or Buisman could be competitive to take a QM jersey on day one. But no, you keep them back for a top 20 in GC that, yes, for them individually, that can mean something in the future. I don't care if human-powered health finish in the top 20 of this race.
I think prize money-wise, it doesn't matter either. So I think you're onto something. Why not do the Tour of Poland? Everyone knows, right? Tour of Poland, full World War coverage, by the way. 230K. Carlton Kirby, Brian Smith, they were doing a big shift from them last week.
Mate, how much would someone have to pay you to watch every stage of the Tour de Polonia from start to finish?
Not much, because I almost did it anyway. So because they have a lot of intermediate sprints, which pay a lot of money. They even have their no free ads. They had a hotel side-off special preem sprint and getting like $2,000 a pop. So maybe there's money for some sprints to get people involved. But yeah, I think the prize money. I think Van Vleuten spoke about this 5 years ago. She's like, this is low on the list of things we need to improve.
But now it's a little bit higher because the rest has improved since then. Back then it was a really not important because there was barely any proper coverage of this sport. Now there's a decent level of coverage for women's cycling. There's still a few races where you and I look at each other and say, is this really making the minimum 45-minute limit in World Tour? This Tour de France Femmes didn't have that issue. We're arguing about should break formation be broadcasted or not. So we're not in the space we were 5 years ago. I think we're at a point where we can have that conversation about prize money to be higher. If you can afford 150k for Paris, then you can afford to spend 450k on a Tour de France Femmes prize money. That's my take. It doesn't need to be the same as the men's Tour de France. It's not that deep for me. I just think overall it would be a good move in the next couple of years to see that go up, because it's not just about, it's also about respectability in some sense. You know, it's not really about the figures, it's about what it means.
Yeah, true. And it's they should also avoid the comparisons where it looks bad as well.
Yeah.
You're right.
But just in the whole span of this sport, if we look at prize money compared to other sports, this sport is a joke.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I don't know, the riders, they earn good money.
Yeah, but I swear there was this narrative when I was younger. I heard this all the time on commentary in Belgium on sports, that whenever there's prize money a team, it gets distributed not just among riders. It's a team by team policy.
Yeah. But
some teams have the policy that it gets distributed not just among the riders, but also the staff. And there I do see the value of that prize money, because I think a lot of staff in World Tour is probably undervalued financially versus what they offer to the team.
And they're on the road maybe even more than the riders, some of the staff. And indeed, are the staff getting these, remember, 10% year-on-year salary growth? Are the staff getting that? Maybe the top staff, but not like the people doing
average mechanic.
The hard work every day, changing a bike chain at 11 o'clock at night, or the gearing before an Angleroo stage, having to do that working all hours. So you're right. Anyway, I think overall it's been a success, and the Tour de France Femmes, I think it continues to improve. The product is really good. So congrats to everyone involved. Sometimes you do have to give ASO and also Swift, who made it happen, you got to give some props. Even you can argue, it should have happened earlier. Okay, but it's really a success, I think, for everybody.
I think that's fair to say.
Join Cycling, by the way, speaking of success, one of the most successful cycling companies and startups in the last decade. I wanted to give you a mid-year recap. We're sort of in mid-year mode. Here's a mid-year recap of what's new in Join. In January, Join brought out the beta of the full web dashboard. I know a lot of people were asking for that, where you don't just have it on mobile, or the mobile app on your computer. As a full web dashboard. In April, Join brought out a new home screen from the ground up. Everything you need to understand your training day visible at a glance, your readiness, today's workout, the week ahead, everything like that. In May, they closed the gap between planning your training and completing it. There was the automatic export feature, so now you can send directly your Join schedule to your Garmin, Wahoo, to Zwift, to Hammerhead, and just these little things. And it doesn't sound like a big thing, but this little thing just takes away another obstacle to doing your plan, doing structured training, letting you mentally focus on just riding. In June, activity feedback was introduced as well. And in July, Join made it easier to catch up on anything still waiting for your input. So the pending feedbacks card which sometimes I have to admit, yeah, I didn't like having the pending feedback. I also like to, I never have unread messages on my phone. I don't like having those things. It's now like a card, and it brings together all the activities so you can do that faster. And there's plenty more happening. It's really, that's why Join Cycling is still, we love having them on board, because they're still improving, still changing the application, still listening to users. You can give them direct feedback as well. But yeah, I wanted to let you know about all those new features. Maybe you used Join before, and one of those things you didn't like, and now it's been fixed. This could prompt you to go and check it out again. Thanks to them for supporting the show. Okay, La Vuelta Bulletin, UAE are going with Pogačar. It is announced he's going, which I think is pretty cool, because, I mean, it would have been a generational battle of like other GC guys. We'll still have that for the podium. He goes with Almeida, Vine, Torres, Marcus, Sivakov, Novak, Ivo Oliveira. What do you think of that team? It's pretty good.
I would like to congratulate Tadej Pogačar for winning the Vuelta. We can joke about it. Tadej Pogačar, if nothing happens, wins this race with his eyes closed. Partially because the competition is not necessarily... You don't have the Jonas Vingegaard, even the Remco Evenepoel, etc. level riders here to fight Tadej Pogačar for the win. That said, team-wise, Almeida crashed in Polonia.
Yeah.
Vine crashed in Burgos.
Yep.
Pablo Torres looks solid. I think he might be one of the most prominent domestiques for Pogačar at the Vuelta. For Marco looked okay. Sivakov, Novak, Ivo Oliveira. It's not the strongest team if you look at the injuries of Almeida and Vine, but...
It ain't the Tour de France super squad.
Pogačar can show up with 7 Tour de France level Aramburus and he'll win this.
Of course he'd win this. That would be like the best team I've ever seen.
He was invisible at the Tour de France.
Oh, I thought you meant like top Aramburu.
Peak Aramburu.
You mean this Tour de France Aramburu?
Yes, this Tour de France Aramburu.
Yeah, that's not good.
I am hyped about the fact that we'll see Pogačar back at the Vuelta for the reason that that's where the story began. Like, you and I were in the depths of the mines back in 2019, where we were our pre-podcast live, Patrick, our pre-podcast live, where
didn't exist.
Suddenly the Vuelta, I think Primož Roglič was the favorite. Valverde might have still been there if I recall correctly. But Tadej Pogačar, let's be honest, before the race, we already noticed that he was pretty good at the likes of California, etc. I think at this point, they were still trying to mingle Aru as the leader in this race and also the Tour de France afterwards, to be honest. But that was clearly visibly not the case. And the way Pogačar, I think, won 3 stages in that race, got third, that is like deep engraved in my mind. That was a really fun race to enjoy. And is that also not the edition where was the last mountain stage, Plataforma de Gredos, where Lopez had a mechanical in the valley before the muddy climb? Am I inventing this?
There was the storm in Andorra before the climb up to above Encamp, where there was the mechanical or crash of Roglič and maybe Superman.
Yeah, I cooked. You're right. I'm right.
You're right.
Sorry.
It was a good race. But yeah, I think it does change the race. We'll have the Vuelta preview in full, but it does change the race. Like we said about the UAE team, are they able to control everything for 10 stages for Pog? Or is it more going to be 4 to 5 stages cruise control? And because, yeah, it's Novak can control quite a lot, but yeah, I think Torres will be good. Unfortunately for Primož Roglič, maybe was going to be a podium contender for the Vuelta. He was hit by a car pre-San Sebastian. Reports are that it's 50-50. It's 50-50 that he might do the Vuelta, and that's really shit for him. He's had I think this was his main target. He didn't do the Tour de France. He didn't do the Giro. He's done 28 race days. He was building up for this, but yeah.
Signing for Red Bull. If we take a look at his run since, and he won the Vuelta at Red Bull, right?
Yeah, 24 Vuelta plus Catalunya.
The 24 went great.
Plus Dauphiné.
Whatever came afterwards, yes, Catalunya included in 2025, but Primož Roglič doesn't thrive on a Catalunya victory, you know? Primož Roglič is a rider of big stature. Like, we were talking about Pogačar back in 2019. Primož Roglič was riding the rooftops of everybody's house in
He's the
those
number
years.
one rider in the world.
Yeah, like it all started, I think, with maybe a stage win at the Tour de France in 2017, then top 5 in 2018, then coming to the forefront where he was starting to hit big and was about to win the 2020 Tour de France, where he could have won if the team did ride so passively. But sad parts to the side, I would say that outside of the first year, Roglic going to Bora has really backfired on him, because his goal of going to Red Bull in the first place was being the leader at the races that he wants to be leader at.
And they hired a million guys to do that.
Yeah, they hired a million guys to do that, and they have a history of doing that in the first place. So it was obvious that if it didn't look like Roglic was the be-all, end-all to their solution, that they would look for other solutions, and they did so in the likes of Remco and Lipovic stepping up as well from his biathlon past. But I want to bring us straight forward, I think, to the transfer rumors around Roglic. Because there's been a rumor online since yesterday. I think it was HLN Bram van der Capelle who brought it out, where I looked at it and I was like, am I reading this correctly, Patrick? Primož Roglic, his team, are talking to Lotto Intermarché for a potential transfer going into 2027. And it's weird, because when I read that article, it looked like they were just having a conversation. Then half the people reporting it were translating that into, oh, he's going to Lotto Intermarché. I don't think that's as certain as people are pretending it to be. But there's a serious conversation going on there. And that is something that was completely unexpected to me. Because while I believe that Roglic is looking for a way out, either he was actually considering retirement, if I recall correctly, but if he didn't do that, a way out to a team where he can still ride the biggest races like the Vuelta or Tour de France in a leadership position, then I thought it would be, I don't know, maybe Astana, right?
I think this is really like surprised everybody, because you think, okay, is it going to be Trek, Bora, UAE, Vismas? Is it going to be the top GC teams or decathlon top budget teams who have established riders in this role? Okay, maybe not, but then you think, okay, what does it typically, like what did Nibali do? You then go to a mid-budget team, but with a solid GC history. And that is Astana. That is actually Movistar as well. Then you can see, okay, these are real GC-focused teams. They have they actually have a lot of climbers. Okay, is the TT support the same level? Maybe not, but it's there you see the vision. Oh, Bahrain. Bahrain's a great example. Bahrain are a proper GC team. And they're a solid mid-table team.
Would Roglic be higher up than Lenny Martinez for the Tour de France in their plans? I'm not sure he would be anymore.
No, but is Roglic going to win the Tour again, or win the Tour?
I think he wants to ride it as sole leader.
Really?
He wants to ride either Tour or Vuelta as sole leader.
Surely Giro, Vuelta, and go for podium and maybe better in both is like the realistic goal now.
Well, I'm sorry, but then Visma would have been the best spot for him.
Yeah, but now we're 3 years past that point.
Yes. But what I'm trying to say with that sentence is that nothing Roglic got in terms of leadership in the last 3 years, he wouldn't have gotten at Visma. The issue for him was co-leadership with Jonas at the Tour de France in, 2024? Yes, that's 3 years ago. I was time issues. I'm sorry, but...
Wow, it came after Vuelta 23. But you're
my
right.
point is that I think he wants to go to a team where he can have sole leadership in whatever goal he wants.
True, and at Lotto Intermarché you'd have that, but then you think, how realistic is it then to achieve your goal there? No offense to them.
Not realistic.
So, I mean, they have had one big signing before, but that was Philippe Gilbert.
Degenkolb as well, Patrick.
True, he would have been on big money at that time, right?
Yeah, they were both on big money, and what was the outcome of those transfers?
But there you at least see it.
What do you mean?
They fit. It's a classics team. It's a Belgian classics heritage
Yeah, but they
team.
were both washed.
I understand that. I understand, but you at least they both speak Dutch. Gilbert maybe, and then the
Relatively.
Devon Kolb I think speaks Dutch, and then
No,
yeah, why doesn't he speak Dutch?
he's German.
Yeah, but
He did ride for
He's been in
DSM.
Sunweb for his whole life, and he's German. He'll
Yeah.
speak Dutch 100%.
He'll speak a bit of Dutch. You're probably right.
It fits with the philosophy. This is a break from that. Although we have, so Roglic to Lotto and to do you actually think it'll happen? I don't think it's come from nothing, but
It's definitely not come from nothing. I think both parties have confirmed that they're talking, actually, which on one end, I'd like to see it happen, but on the other end, I don't think it's like, if you're in Lotto, we're watching this from Roglic's position right now. Let's watch it from Lotto Intermarché's position. You're 1 year into your 3-year cycle. You're a brand new World Tour team after being promoted after, let's be honest, trying to pull yourself out of the slumps of Pro Team after getting relegated 4 years ago. Lotto Intermarché right now, the state of the roster for 2027 without Primož Roglič, I'm sorry, but it's painful to look at. And that is partially because, Widar and
Bergmoes.
That's not World Tour level leadership.
It's all right.
That's pro team.
Toonarts is pretty good.
That's all of this is a pro team that you're describing.
No,
Van Eetveld leaving.
Bottom table World Tour team.
I'm not having that. That is not true.
The Schoetener. Look at the age of these guys. They're young.
They're young. That's why they're a pro team. They're a pro team in World Tour team clothing based on their roster for next year without Roglič.
Yeah. And that's also like, did they really need the promotion? But I think in 2 years the roster will look quite good. I think they've had to do a rebuild after the merger. They're now doing that with the young guys. They'll see the fruits of that in probably 2 years, 3 years. But you're right. Right now, you also can't rely on Widar. He's sick half the time.
And also, you can't rely that these riders will remain in this team when they break out.
Like Van Gils.
To me, I've got a real Picnic PostNL a few years ago feeling where you've got a lot of youngsters in this team, like Mathis Grisel, for example, Gualdi you mentioned. In 2 years, like what is Gualdi's contract looking like? He's out of contract at the end of 2027. Then I look at this rider and I think, okay, if he has a breakout in the next 1 year and a half, then another team might snatch him. And I've got that feeling about a lot of these riders. Because they're also riders with not like an out there nationality that teams might shy away from. Like, this doesn't fit in our team culture of
like
nationality, so to say.
Like some of the riders,
they're Belgians.
They are. Yeah, a lot of teams look at them. Quickstep, Alpecin, whoever, and maybe they just want to take the Deli money and just give it to Roglic. They're like, he'll go on altitude. He'll do it. He won't be sick the evening of a race.
When I look at the current roster of Lotto and the one for next year, yes, I see the Widars of the world and so forth, but I also think to myself, this is not you've had pro team years to build yourself into a team that could withstand World Tour a little bit. I'll be honest, I don't know where they are on the World Tour ranking right now. I think they might be relatively okay, especially compared to teams like Picnic.
No, they're the last. They're 60 points ahead of Cofidis, who are in the relegation zone. So they're the last spot above the relegation zone. So no, it's not comfortable.
So if you sign hypothetically Roglic does score. Even on a bad year, he'll score about 1,000 UCI points in a bad year.
And like, this is disappointing. He's come 5th, 4th, and 6th in these World Tour 1 weeks. That's points, baby.
But he's also gonna be 37 in 2 months. His level's not gonna go up from here. I wish Roglic does a Valverde style next year, for example, but they really needed to pay off if they spend the money on this rider for next year.
And the But they're probably looking more at the points than, are we going to win the Giro with him? It's more, actually, can we get 2,000 UCI points, which would be a third of their current annual haul at the moment. Their top-ranked rider in ranking is Deli, and they're losing him. So they also need to replace Arno Deli's points. They also lose Lennart van Eetveld. And so, yeah. They do need points, but the ranking, it is important. It drives the transfer market.
I think it's a transfer that could be more likely successful than back in the day with the Degenkolb and Gilberts, because the obvious UCI point return, even on a bad year, is there.
And Roglič isn't washed to the same extent. It's like, okay, he's declined maybe to the point where you can't bank a Giro Vuelta every year like you could 3-4 years ago. But he could still have top 6 the Tour de France last year if he didn't completely sabotage his own race in the third week.
But I'm wondering if you have the money to pay for a Roglič. Like, I do think to myself that he's probably not getting paid the same amount that he was before because of the fact that he is specifically looking for a team where he can leadership in my headcanon then. But it's still going to be notable money to the point that I'm thinking, could you have spent that elsewhere on a more future-proof rider that can also score UCI points, you know?
Yeah. So you're saying why not spend it on 500k riders or something?
Maybe. I haven't thought through the transfer market at that level, but
yeah,
I also don't think he's going to be on 2.5 million.
I don't know, but you're more, yeah, it's like just split it across, but they had to let Deli go. Also, Van Eetveld, I think he was injured a lot, but when he was good. He also was winning World Tour 1 weeks. He won 2 in 1 year, and that's a lot of UCI points as well. So I think a lot of the transfer market is UCI point driven, especially for relegation. We're going to do a full transfers recap podcast.
One more thing. Would you have rather signed Jordi Meeus than Roglič?
For Lotto, yeah, because it's their heritage.
Okay.
It is. Like, this is a stable Belgian classic sprinter. Give him leadership at all these races. Replace Milan Menton with Jordi Meeus, and you just have, you're swimming in points.
Or combine them. Like, yeah, there's enough races on the Belgian 1.1 calendar. But
not just 1.1. He can almost win Gent-Wevelgem. He was sprinting for the win in Gent-Wevelgem, Jordi Meeus.
Yeah, well, 36th. But in other years, yes, I agree.
No, he was until the door shut it.
Yeah, that's actually true. I'm more like 1,000 UCI points per year is also what Jordi Meeus can do. So I think UCI point wise,
way more. He can do what? Yeah. Jordi Meeus on the right program with their support, 2,000 plus. I have no idea why he signed with Trek. I have no idea.
I agree.
Clip that, and then when he wins like the Tour de France points jersey next year and Gent-Wevelgem, you can laugh at me, but Lotto would have been the perfect spot. We'll do a full transfers recap. It deserves its own spot. Later, probably pre-Vuelta, we'll do it next week. Classics. I'm getting a lot of texts this morning. Jesus Christ. And let's close that. The Classics Hamburg, 207 kilometers coming up this week. We have the Valserberg. It's a really steep 500 meter, like 14% pinch, but it crests 15Ks from the finish. This is a sprint classic, but it was won by Rory Townsend last year from the breakaway, which was a nice change, but we have mostly sprinters here. Arno Deli was the man who sprinted. I think he was behind Townsend and would have won last year. Valscheid is here, so the home race supporting Milan. Magnier is here for Quick Step. We don't have many confirmed starters. We have Pavel Bittner for Picnic, Fretin for Cofidis. I don't know if Coy is here. I would assume so. But yeah, we have very few confirmed starters. So I'm going to go with Big Johnny. I think Big Johnny looks pretty good in Poland, and I think he's going to get the job done here.
I'll be honest, my start list isn't loading, so I'll go for Johnny Milan as well.
Benji, don't worry.
Oh, okay. Then I'll go for Johnny Milan as well. But we bring us to our next race, Arctic Race of Norway. I think we'll preview Benelux Tour next week because it's actually next week. But Arctic Race of Norway is a race that you're actually a fan of, if I recall correctly. I think.
Yeah.
Is this the one where you have?
I was like, if your country has a sovereign wealth fund derived from natural resources, then I will suddenly involved. It's not true. I just like weird races that are like in different places.
You've got summary videos of this?
Yeah, I do highlights of this and check tour. So stage 1, sprint, bonies are really important. Then stage 2, another sprint, but there's a bony sprint, 6Ks from the finish. And there's sometimes wind actually. Sometimes this race is harder than it looks because it's in the Arctic Circle, so you can have variable weather conditions. We then have a climb I'm not familiar with, the Storeya summit, 3.4 Ks, 11%, absolute rampas. We got 16% pinches in there on stage 3. I'll be watching that. And then we have a similar finish in Narvik. It is a 2.8K, 8% climb, so not quite as difficult. One's a maybe 11-minute, 12-minute climb. This is more like a 6 to 7-minute climb. But they don't have the circuit finish, which I quite liked, where Leknesson went clear a few years ago. So it's just 2 uphill finishes that should decide GC. We have Guillermo Thomas Silva here, who's had a very, very good year. But these finishes are quite difficult.
Van Eetveld?
Yeah, this is good for Van Eetveld. Wow.
I think he's here to score some UCI points, Patrick.
I think he's the favourite, sure. I mean, Engelhard is good, and Foldager, they're good.
The start list has 20 names.
Yeah, but Alessandro Pinarello, who started the year really well, good puncher. And like I said, I mean, we normally have some good punchers here. Seb Berwick on the provisional, just quietly. But if Van Eeveld's in shape, he should win. These 2 uphill finishes are perfect for him.
Yep, I think so as well. Sprint-wise, did we go over the sprinters?
Oh, sorry, sprinters.
Van Uden?
Van Uden, that's not bad.
And?
Blikra.
And Kokkelman.
And I got a new Ethan Vernon. Ethan Vernon's the best sprinter here, no?
Yeah, I think so as well.
I want to give a shout out to one man who's now a trainee this year, Nikiforos Arvanitou. He was on Team United Shipping. He's a trainee at Astana. He's Greek. I don't think we have a Greek rider in World Tour at the moment, but he's a good sprinter, and I want to see. I'm happy Astana picked him up. I want to see what he can do. He's quite a good sprinter. He was 3rd in Tour of Slovenia Stage 2. I think he'll top 3 some of these sprints.
And let's be honest about it, the fact that he's Greek does help for UCI points, because if hypothetically they sign him next year, then he can take the NCs, and that will give him like 300 UCI points in the Natty Champs. So, I think the last Greek rider on the men's side that I can remember is Buglas, which was the rider that was fighting Maxim van Gils in Guangxi 2 years ago.
Yeah. Zion Burgos,
like physically fighting, I think.
Oh, really?
I think one of them punched each other. I don't remember why. Either way, check tour, Patrick. This is one of those races where I'm actually always hyped for. It's a smaller race, but it's a race where we see some young talent fighting for the victory every now and then. And while I do look at stage 1 being more of a versatile sprint, even just a sprint maybe, it's stage 2 that has the first climb. That climb is the Yested. Is that correct? It's so small on my screen.
Not so, that is what it says on the pronunciation. I can't help you further, but it's one of these climbs where you'd see in the past Alaphilippe and Hirschi, and they'd be defending, waiting for a sprint, and because it's not that hard and it levels off in sections, and then you have the pure climbers trying to get a gap. You sometimes have a nice battle. It can be tactical on a climb like that. The next stage is pretty similar, 13Ks, 5.5% on the Dlouet Strane, which I think Le Cerf won last year. And then the last stage is harder, 8K, 6.6%. So we have 3 soft mountaintop finishes. So only 1 sprint. So quite an interesting parkour. Start list here has got some quite big names. Mikkel Landers here with Van Sevenant. Andrew August with Svested Bardsang and Haig. So Ineos have brought quite a good team. Ben Turner for the sprints. Blackmore, I think, is here for NSN with Hirt, his home race, as well as yeah, I think it's quite a nice race. Bora, who they got. Max Bock, he's good on their Devo team, they're doing it. So he was second in the Valle d'Aosta TT uphill.
Wow. It's their Devo team that's here, so.
Jordan Gigat with Bouchard. Wow, this is a good finish for Gigat.
Yeah, I am feeling AJ Augusto for this.
The GC or stage?
I don't know. Both. Fuck it.
I think
Pozzo
Gigat takes
Vivo's riding this, Patrick.
Who?
Pozzo Vivo.
Let him cook. On what team?
My pick is Pozzo Vivo for the. That's so stupid, but I'll go for it anyway. Fuck it. I think he might top 5 this.
Yeah, based on his KOMs. Gigat looks really good. I think he'll win a stage, but for some reason I just don't think he'll win GC, but that Total team is really good. Stefan de Bod, sneaky top 10 for Modern Adventure. Where's Byron Munton? But yeah, okay. That's a check tour. We'll be watching them. I'll have highlight videos of both those races this week. Thanks for listening to the weekly show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you with a big transfers recap, Renewey preview, and a separate Vuelta preview next week. Until then, ciao, ciao.